Ora, cá estamos novamente. Hoje vamos continuar a série que eu já tinha deixado de ficar aqui há muito tempo, mas tenho que voltar a ela porque ainda tenho muitos artigos eh, para discutir sobre o que é que houve na Computex. eh, e estes vídeos já tinha aqui guardado, tem cerca de 3 meses, mas eu não consigo fazer tudo, percebem? Peço desculpa, mas as coisas são mesmo assim. Então, hoje vamos falar aqui de alguns artigos baseados mais até nas caixas de computadores. Não esqueçam que aquilo que apareceu na Computex em Taipei muitas vezes pode não ter, não ser, nunca na vida ser vendida, porque estavam algumas coisas em fase de testes, ok? Às vezes as pessoas esquecem-se desses pequenos, grandes detalhes, ok? Agora, a nossa parte, epá, é passar a informação e depois vocês ficam com aquela ideia de que, epá, se calhar até vou gostar deste material e se ele sair até posso comprá-lo, não é? Portanto, é mais nesse aspecto. Hum, Esta já vai na edição, são 11 vídeos, acho eu, que eu já fiz, ok? Da Computex, portanto, muita coisa da Computex. Então, sem mais perda de tempo, vamos aqui começar por a tela. E então vamos aqui com o Paulo Hardware, é um youtuber muito conhecido, que também foca na informática, como é óbvio, né? E ele descaiu um bocadito há uns tempos para cá, mas isso são outras coisas, ok? Cada um é que sabe. É
COMPUTEX
a vida de cada um.
2025 from Taipei, Taiwan is brought to you by Gigabyte, Trace,
Antes isto é
Thermaltake,
publicidade, vamos
P-Skill.
passar para a
So this is
frente.
the Spizzy, S-P-Z-Y.
Isto
They're
é
using
Cooler
AI
Master a
and
mostrar.
they're taking a bunch of pictures. You can see all those cameras in there going flash, flash, flash. They're taking pictures of a copper plate that's being used to cool GB200 GPUs that go into NVIDIA enterprise racks for big AI farms.
Muitos
The
dos
cool thing about
youtubers
this
conhecidos
process is
fizeram
they're
uns
able to
vídeos muito
train the
bons.
AI to recognize defects in the surface because micro defects are something you want to minimize so you get the best possible contact between the cooling plate and whatever you happen to be trying to cool, such as a
Hoje consegui pôr
GB200.
aqui
This is an example of the system
a
that they have set
tradução
up in their
das
factory
legendas em
because if you
português
guys
e
didn't
há
know,
uns
Cooler
dias para cá
Master,
não
they
dava.
make
Não
lots of
sei
stuff
o que é que
besides
aconteceu com
just
este
a lot
browser.
of the consumer level components that we might put
Agora
into
parece
gaming
que
PCs.
voltou a
They have a
dar.
lot of other partners. So it's
Mas
really
a
cool to see
tradução em
this
português nunca será
demonstration,
perfeita,
see
não
it
é?
in action. And I will say a practical use of AI because what it's done is trained all those cameras to take the images. They take about 200 images. It knows what the defects look like. And then as the training continues, it
É,
recognizes and
sim,
improves over
infelizmente,
time to make sure you have the smoothest
as
possible
falhas
surface.
passam.
And it's just fun to watch it go right there. And man, look at all the copper they put in those coolers for the GB200. So since we started this week out with a lot of frustration and negativity, I'm trying, if I can, to sort of bring things back around to just the raw appreciation of technology. And I thought this demonstration was pretty cool. If you guys have ever watched one of my build recommendation videos, you probably know that I recommend for the vast majority of PC builders that you can get
Os
by
coolers
with
estão
an air
muito
cooler. You
bons.
don't need
Yeah.
to spend
É
80,
verdade, já
100,
disse isso.
150,
Há
$200
coolers
plus
de
on a liquid
torre
cooler.
assim
I
que
mean, granted,
conseguem
if you want
bater
to do that,
IOs
okay. But if you're
fracos.
trying to stick to a
Muito
budget, an air
normal.
cooler is totally good. I have been recommending the Thermalright air
Não,
coolers
não,
that
aquilo
cost around
é uma
$35 to
plataforma
$45 for
que
quite some
a
time
Coolmaster está a
because
testar
they're a good deal at
para
that price.
verificar.
Cooler
Vai, tira
Master
fotografias
is
e a
gunning
inteligência
for
artificial
Thermalright with this right here.
verifica
This
se
is
está
currently
tudo
called
bem.
the V4 Core, although they are toying around with some
Ou
possible other
seja, em vez
names
de terem
for it.
aquelas
And the
pessoas à
beauty of
volta
this
disto,
is
nas
one
linhas
that
de
it's going to cost
montagem,
about
eles querem
$30 when it
implementar
comes
isso.
out, and there's
Vai
a
dar cabo
black
muito
version here. They also have an
trabalho, não é?
ARGB
Enfim,
version down here. This can handle CPUs in the
está a
150
fazer
to
eco.
200
Estás a ver
watt
isso aonde?
TDP range, which is the vast majority of CPUs on the market that aren't higher end, higher core count options.
Estás a
And the
ver isso
reason they're able to
no
both get
TikTok,
that
não
higher
é?
TDP, keep the price down, and also make this an effective cooler, at least according to the demonstrations here, which seem pretty on point, is what's called 3D heat pipe technology. If you guys watched my CES coverage, you might have seen this already. Now you can grossly oversimplify this by saying, well, they went with a standard single pipe
Eu
that's
estou a ver,
U-shaped,
por
like
exemplo,
with a lot of the traditional tower coolers,
noutra
to adding a
plataforma está
third
bem.
pipe in the middle. It's not
Sim,
quite
mas
that
eu estou
simple
a
though. There's
perguntar se estás a
actually
ver
a
isto
lot
no
of detail
TikTok.
that went
Eu
into
estou a
this
ver
design.
no
First
YouTube e
off,
está
it's not
perfeito
like
o
you can
som.
just add an adapter for that third heat pipe. The manufacturing of that and getting yields up has been a challenge. Back at CES, they were right around 50% yields for the
Estou
heat
aqui
pipe
a fazer o teste.
manufacturing. Now
Tenho
they're
sempre
close to 90, which
browsers
is why
aberto
they're also close to
com
launching this product. Here's an example of how they manufacture these 3D heat pipes. They start with a standard U-shaped pipe. They
para ver
drill
se
a
a live
hole
está a
down there.
aparecer. E estou a ver aqui, pá, por exemplo, no
Here's the
Quick
third
está
pipe that
a
gets
funcionar
added.
bem.
It has a
O som está
channel in
bom.
order to allow
No
the
Quick, por
liquid to
exemplo.
still pass through there. You might be able to see down there in the bottom,
Não
there's
consegues ir
grooves
ao
and
YouTube?
powder inside the actual heat pipe itself. That's to help with
Estás não
transfer
queres ligar,
from
não
the
é?
liquid to the copper and dissipate the heat.
Por exemplo, no
This center
Facebook,
pipe
a
here
live
only
também
has
está
the
com o som
groove, but no
está
powder. Basically, that makes it so
normal.
that the liquid inside is going to pass through this a little
É
bit
que eu
more quickly.
no TikTok não consigo
Prioritizes those two
fazer,
outer tubes, and that
testar
is where,
isso.
again, you get a little bit more airflow across the fan blades. Here is a complete unit, and again, part of the advanced development of this was making sure that they could do this consistently.
Estranho.
They've gotten yields up to about 90%. Is yields the right word? I think people understand what that means. Look for it to debut in early August. We have some additional graphics and stuff, but as you can see up here, with the heat pipes going up only on the outside of your fin stack, you have an area in the middle that doesn't get utilized as much for cooling. By adding the third heat pipe, and there are two 3D heat pipes in each of these V4 core coolers, you can have a couple pipes that go up in the middle, further utilizing the center space of the fin stack to provide a little bit more heat dissipation as the fan blows air across those. But I mentioned attention to detail. The fan is actually more effective at cooling the outer areas here. That's where there is more airflow flowing through. So utilizing the middle is a good idea, but only to a certain extent. That's why those center heat pipes are 6mm instead of 8mm. I think it's pretty awesome to get some more details about the development of product like these. And if you're like, wow, that's a lot of information about heat pipes, if the upshot is that you can have a $30
TikTok,
cooler, RGB or non-RGB, that's very
não me
effective, that can
não me
be
aparece a
an
minha própria
alternative
live
to thermal right and some other options that are
do
out there.
telemóvel.
Competition, low prices, good hardware that works well. Hey, those are all the things that make PC gaming cool, right? Further down the line, we have some other products in development. We have the V4 Alpha right here, which is a beefed up version of the V4 Core. And then we have the V8 Ace right here. So this one is going to have not two, but four of those 3D heat pipes. You can see the four central pipes going up in the middle. This one is still in development though, so keep an eye out for that later this year. And while the prices for these higher end models are not set yet, they are trying to keep very aggressive. So looking probably around the $40 to $50-ish range for the V4 Alpha, and then maybe around the $60, $70
por
to
acaso no
$80
TikTok está com essa situação,
really
tá?
high quality power supplies.
Deixa eu
We have
ver.
the X Silent and X Mighty series over here. These are
Tens razão, no TikTok, mas só no TikTok, é engraçado. Olha que esquisito. Só no TikTok é que está com esta. Espera lá. Mas só dá o eco se tiver ao mesmo tempo o browser. Agora eu estando só a falar, eu não ouço essa situação. Olha que estranho. Mixer aqui do áudio. Agora, se eu ativar ali o vídeo, é que começa a dar isso. Agora deixa cá ver. Eu vou pôr aqui o vídeo.
already out and available on the market, but they have they made them sexier. So this is the X Mighty Platinum 3000, and I think we showed you guys this during our CES coverage. Of course, the 3,000 watt power supply is a little bit beefy for your typical plug in the United States. So depending on your region, that may or may not be suitable for you. Look at some of the cool designs that Cooler Master has done on the side of these, just for the perforations, for the airflow, for the intake fan. Adding some vertical accents with some more texture on the outside as well as the top. And you know what? These These feel functional. I bet those help with heat dissipation
Não
as
sei se
well.
o Sr. Rafur ainda está no
It
TikTok.
does.
Eu
We have
tirei agora
confirmation.
aqui uma opção
It's
do
not just for
alto-falante
And then here's the MWE4 series, and
e
I
já não
really
dá o
like the
eco.
design of these. So again, just a little bit of sort of vertical texturing right there, and just vertical lines, but pretty nice. And then look what they did with the grill here on top for your ventilation. Look, those are Cooler Master logos. The Cooler Master sexy hexagon, but they sort of overlaid it, so you got a double overlay. Anyway, the MWE Gold 4
Acho que agora já
series should
está
be
resolvido
available
o
around
problema.
August. Here's the Freeform 2.0 system, which Cooler Master has enabled for their MF600 case. I just happened to catch the Gamers Nexus video on Cooler Master's display right before I did this video, so there's perhaps an alternative name for this case that might be floating around. Of course, I'm not going to sink to such depths as Steve. More to the point, though, this case is already out. It's available. It's about $200. $200.
Tem umas caixas para espetaculares.
So
Eu,
I can't promise
como
that it's
digo,
going to be exactly
como eu
that in
disse há
the US,
bocado,
and I'm
há
not going to go into
caixas
like
e há
how
material
much
aqui
those will
nestes
be or won't
vídeos
be or anything
que
like that, but there
poderão
might be
não chegar
additional
ao
taxes
comércio.
depending on your region. I'll leave it that way. It's got an
Estão em
aluminum
fase
frame and it's got these rails along the side
de
and
testes,
corner
melhor
pieces,
dizendo.
and depending on the size of those, you can
Portanto,
make the case larger or
mas
smaller.
pagam em
Cases can be
caixas
smaller or
aqui
larger. For
espetaculares.
instance, there's an MF400 over there that's a little bit shorter. That one is not available quite yet.
E
But
mesmo
apart from
assim,
the
algumas
lovely
caixas
aluminum
de
exterior,
preços
everything is held on by
bastante em
magnets, and they have
contas,
this rail system
espetaculares
inside that
mesmo.
allows you to really go all crazy with customization and moving stuff around wherever you might want it to be. So here you can see it's configured with three 140mm intake fans on the front, but by adjusting these on the
Depois ao
rails down
Rafur,
here,
se
you can
quiseres
move those up and
confirmar,
down,
eu já
possibly give yourself
alterei
a
ali
little bit more room or clearance
uma
for
opção no
stuff like
TikTok,
radiators and
já
all-in-one
tirou
coolers.
o
The internal motherboard
o
tray, the
eco.
white pieces in here you see are steel, but they do maintain compatibility with reverse connector
Nunca
motherboards.
tinha
And this
reparado
is kind of
nisso.
like the base configuration, but this
Nunca
thing
ninguém
can
me
be
disse também.
completely moved around. So like
Malta, se
your power
calhar.
supply shroud could be flipped and moved up to the top while you move your motherboard tray down a little bit to make some room.
Espera lá,
Take
houve
the
uma
power supply and put
alteração
it
na
up here,
configuração.
and put it down there.
Eu hoje, quando
I really like
lancei
the concept of this case, and now
isto,
that it's actually
houve
available
umas
on the market,
opções
it's really
novas. Se
cool
calhar
to see.
ativou
One
aquilo
of the
sem
other
eu
things that
ter
Cooler
visto.
Master
Enfim,
has said
mas
that
obrigado
they've
ao
struggled
Rafa.
a little bit with in the past when they've gone for modular
Eu
setups
esta
like
caixa
this,
gostei
is
dela.
add-ons, accessories, and things like that have been difficult to keep in stock because of
Mas
how
não
the
vai ser
retail industry
propriamente
works.
barata esta
But
caixa.
Cooler Master is developing their direct-to-customer sales model, so the plan is to continue to develop this series with additional things. So
Mas
if
estas
perhaps
caixas
you
mais
wanted to
caras
do
têm que se
maybe
pôr
like
finas,
a
porque
non-tempered
na
glass
China
side
estão a vir
panel and swap
caixas
that out for
pá,
something with more airflow, that might be an
muito
option.
boas
Or
e
additional
com
mounting
preços
accessories,
fantásticos.
other customized front panels that we've seen, which there's a few more of over there. Again,
Esta
just
caixa, por
providing as
exemplo,
much
também gosto
flexibility as
dela, com as
possible
ventoinhas
for people
grandes.
who want to customize their
É de 20
system. So
polegadas.
their direct customer sales portal, they're looking
Muito
to have
bom.
set up and ready early next year. And that's where you'll be able to, maybe choose some alternative features
Próximo
or
ano
something like
será
that. But hey, maybe you want a little
2026.
classy side panel with the wood
Esta
finish
de
on it.
configuração
Looks nice and
também é uma
clean.
moda que está a pegar
Or
agora.
this one, some
É,
stone.
eu
So Cooler Master is
sou
inviting you
apologista
to get
do
stoned with your MF600
do
case.
renderizado
I'm feeling a little stoned
do
right now.
mesh
It's been a
e não
long,
tapar as
it's
caixas,
been a long show
mas
so far. Oh, now if I didn't mention,
Mas
those
para
are the sort of
escritórios, por
aluminum silver
exemplo,
white versions down there,
é
and then we
interessante,
also
mas
have
no
the
escritório também
Masterframe
não vai comprar uma caixa
available in a
cara.
black finish. This is the Masterframe 600
Aquelas
mesh, which
caixas mais
has,
baratas.
surprisingly, a mesh front.
Enfim.
And then over here we have the 500 and the 400 again coming soon.
Muita caixa,
Speaking
muita
of
caixa.
some pretty unique builds that can be done with the Masterframe, here's the Masterframe 360, and this
Algumas
is
também que
actually a
nunca viram
mod of the
para cá, não é?
Masterframe 360, where they've added a stage up here. So you can take one of your characters and drop them in there. It actually has a LCD screen positioned behind it. I do not know what character this is, but maybe some of you in the comments can tell me who. Look at those details, though. It's even got some spotlight shining down on the dude, so that's pretty cool. But this 360-degree case is actually going
Esta
to be
caixa seria interessante se não
sold as
tivesse a
case by
parte da
itself. So
frente.
here is like the case. This one also has a really epic water-cooled
Esta, por
build that's
exemplo,
installed in
pô,
it. But the Masterframe 360
imagina
panoramic
o peso
has,
dela.
as is indicated by the name, a panoramic
tamanho
view
que ela tem.
with tempered glass
Opa,
on
opa.
all three sides. Now there is a little bit of a gap right here, so that is going to allow some airflow from the sides, but most of the airflow is going to be an intake through the bottom. But as I have been ogling so many epic builds at COMPUTEX this year, I have a vast appreciation for this one. This is a Cooler Master block on an RTX 5090. It's a disappointing Intel platform to pair with that RTX 5090.
Só o preço desta gráfica deve arrebentar com a
The
carteira.
reservoir is positioned up there at the front, and then if we flip around to the back, we can see the power supply, which is actually tucked in right there. And
Fonte de
a distro
alimentação
plate. So
enorme.
you could see this potentially being an upgraded unit from that Master Frame 600 that I showed you guys. Part of what's enabling that wraparound tempered glass is this reinforced piece right here, which allows the frame to continue this way without requiring a vertical support. This case is going to be available later in the year, looking for it around August. It'll have an MSRP that they're aiming for of $270, although again, that is pre-tariff. I showed you guys the earlier version of the Cooling X at CES.
Eles ainda andam à rasca das tarifas, dar os preços.
Like a heavy, high-end workstation type builds. Some cool little details on here, though, are these analog knobs. They're actually indicating the GPU and CPU temperature. Look, they actually move, like they're motorized. So instead of having an LCD display or something, they went to the extent of actually having little knobs in there. That's pretty cool. We got custom Cooler Master water block on the GPU in there, as well as the CPU. Power supply is positioned right up there. And then the flip side is like the cool
Esta
part that you may have
gostei,
seen at CES,
desta
which
parte,
is the
é
entire side
fantástico.
panel is basically like a radiator. But since radiators do get hot, they've actually put a side panel here to put some
Está
separation
fantástico. Gostei
between the
muito
radiator and the
desta
four
caixa,
180mm
especialmente
fans,
esta
which
parte
is
daqui.
basically like 2 by
Dá
360
aspecto
or
brutal.
720 if you include it all together. So that's how they're able to keep the system relatively small, but still provide tons and tons of cooling.
Deixa eu ver se ele vai dizer uma projeção do preço.
The Cosmos is like a
Não deu.
long-running Cooler Master case
Cosmos
line.
ainda continua,
Basically, it's
só
like
que
Cooler
são
Master's like, hey, we're going to
totalmente
make the biggest
diferentes.
case possible, and then we're going to have a bunch of different revisions of it over the years where we change things and upgrade things and have different types of these cases. So here we've got two versions. The one on the right here is optimized for air cooling. The one on the left here is optimized for water cooling. Which is why, if I swing the side panel open, we can see a full water-cooled system in there. It's the same CPU block and GPU block as in the Cooling X Pro. And then you guys might recognize the front of this. If you've watched any of NVIDIA's presentations on their DGX implementations that they put into data centers, they have this distinct look with this sort of soft blush gold on it. And then this material right here, which actually does provide airflow and has just recently been revealed that
a malta vai ver sempre os meus vídeos depois das lives. Os meus vídeos ficam gravados no YouTube. Eu não me preocupo com quem vem e com quem deixa de vir. Não estou para aí virado.
I asked them about how this is made. I was given an explanation. I've boiled that explanation down to it's a nickel-plated sponge. They start with a sponge, they go through a nickel plating process, then they go through another process that burns away the sponge material. Then it goes through a couple steps of anodization in order to impart the color on it, and then a final step to really color match. So this is allowing air to flow through. My question was, is this going to collect dust over time or something like that? Like in data centers, are these things getting like, do they need to clean them out very often? They said no, because data centers, or at least a data center that's going to be investing in like a DGX setup, they're going to have a pretty high-end air filtration system in order to minimize dust. For the Cosmos 2025, this version, you might
data centers não vais apanhar pó aí, não é? Mas numa casa particular, na minha, então ficava tudo cheio de pó.
We're looking at these cases launching later this year. They're trying to get them out soon in the next few months, but probably
Eu nunca fui à bola para Cosmos, com caixas muito grandes.
The version here has a baffling system of baffles, basically channeling the intake at the front, so you have two separate feeds, one going back there to the CPU, and then another one down here for the graphics card, which apparently you can only install an RTX 5090 in there.
A tradução foi errada, não é 1590, 5090. Inteligência artificial falha para caralho.
But if you like really big cases, if you've got the space and if you're buff enough to lug them around, there's a look at the Cosmos 2025 edition.
Fonte de alimentação 1200.
Next we have the Cooler Master Elite series, and again I previewed the Gamers Nexus video on the Cooler Master display here, and he was trolling them pretty hardcore with all of these cases. The Elite series from Cooler Master is intended to be a more budget case, despite the fact that it's called Elite, which is usually referencing something that is the highest of the high end. But sure, we can give it to them. They are Elite budget cases.
Olha, por exemplo, garantia 2 anos.
And then a number after them. Difference for me,
já não está nas normas europeias.
The Elite 482. Here we have the Elite 600. They're going to have some unique configurations.
Há muito material destes que é apresentado aqui na feira, que não, nem serão ao final da produção, nem virão para a Europa.
This one is the Elite 691 wood. This one, I'm just going to say Elite wood. That was my nickname back in college, actually. We also have the Elite 692 over here, the 693
Gamers
over
Next
here.
gozou
We
com
have
esta
a
citação dos
302, which is a
nomes
little bit smaller. It's like a micro ATX
deles.
option, and the 502 finally down on the end. The good news is that since these are more budget-oriented cases, Cooler Master is aiming for some pretty aggressive prices. Some of these are going to be available for $50, $60, $70 price range. However, once again, that is pre-tariff. So we're looking for these to start launching in Asia Pacific and Europe in the next 2 to 3 months.
Se ele entrar numa live dessas de 500 pessoas, daí para cima, ninguém te responde. Mas depois foi-se embora. É isso que a gente gosta. Tem caixas espetaculares.
Just getting started. A case in the $60, $70, $80 range is just fine. And these look pretty nice. Here's the Master Liquid Atmos 2 series. This is an all-in-one liquid cooler with a swappable unit.
Isto é outra tendência que agora está a ser aplicada. Acho bem.
Pop that on. That one has a fan built into it too, or if you want a little display right there, we got an LED display. So those are swappable. They have made some changes to this since we first saw it at CES. And one thing I should mention about this, as well as those freeform cases that we were looking at, is Cooler Master is going to be sharing 3D modeling guidelines.
Para mim o importante é o funcionamento aí ou não é estas, ia dizer uma coisa feia, não é? Mas pronto, não é para aí que estou virado. Olha, gostei disto, gostei, está espetacular. Muito bem feito.
Analog knobs and dials and all that stuff. These will also light up and have like backlit images and stuff, like these little analog controls. Very cool. And then you set it all up in the software. But the main point here is it's actually available for sale now. Cooler Master says Amazon, and I think a few other retail sites in the US. So if you've seen the Master Hub in previous coverage and you're like, that looked really cool, but then you're like, when's it actually going to launch? It's available. It's out now. Next up we have these fans. This is the Master Fan XT series, and these
as ventoinhas da Cooler Master não são más, ok? Ficaram um bocadito atrasadas em termos de design, mas funcionam muito bem.
And you'd be correct. That is a slight concern with metal blades. Now here, the benefit of metal blades is they have really high rigidity. They're not going to flex. They're not going to expand over time, which is a problem with certain plastic materials that are used for fan blades. That allows them to minimize the gap around the outside edge.
Não são das mais caras e normalmente duram bastante tempo. Aliás, eu acho mesmo as ventoinhas de vendedores não tão conhecidos duram muitos anos. Muito dificilmente a gente encontra ventoinhas avariadas. Olha, variam mais depressa das da placa gráfica e aquelas ventoinhas dos coolers originais dos processadores. Não as ventoinhas que a gente compra para as caixas baratuchas. É incrível que pareça, não é verdade. Isto tem a ver com o tamanho da ventoinha. Quanto mais pequena ela for, mais danos poderá vir a ter. Esqueci-me até de fazer aqui uma coisa. Aumentar a velocidade. Vocês não estarem a perder tempo.
These are going to ship with shrouds or grates, grills. Grill, I guess a grill would be the proper term to use, just to provide a little bit of protection when they're actually in use. Because yeah, these are going to go up to 4,000 RPM. That's pretty fast. I always like to do a little bit of simulation time on the Cooler Master Dynex Racing Sim.
Já é da Cooler Master, este monitor é fantástico. Bem cool. Oh, já foste. É, desculpas todos que a gente dá. Olha o tal Love. Não, está muito porreiro.
I'll just take this corner like an elderly driver or something like that. The Dynex Racing Sim is probably a little bit rich for the blood of most of my viewers, but for anyone who, maybe you run an arcade or something like that, they do.
Anda, diz lá o preço, que é para a gente se assustar. Todos os acessórios, a malta que gosta dos caros. Claro que tens de ter um quarto só para pôr isto. Já foste.
It's all right. That's why we do this as a simulator. I'm back on the road. All right, that's probably good. Oh, seat back. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Here's a
não
quick look at
adianta
some of the
teres.
custom builds that they've set up in
E
that
olha,
Masterframe
uma
600 case,
5090
because if you're
canhão
listening
de
to
uma
me earlier, you're like, I
gráfica.
kind of understand moving stuff around, but I'd like to see it actually in practice. So here is a pretty standard layout with your graphics card.
Mas
You have
fica
a
mal
VG
esta
support down there at the
gráfica
bottom. They've shifted the power
na
supply out a little
caixa,
bit so
nesta
you can see that
caixa,
you have a Cooler
atenção.
Master power supply. Or, take your
Acho.
graphics card with a riser cable and mount it to the top. That's kind of a random mounting location for a graphics card, but pretty cool looking. Here are a couple more builds. This is actually using the RTX 5080 and 5090 GPU cooler that you may have seen me talk about at CES. Again, mounted vertically with a graphics card support. I'm familiar with graphics card supports for like anti-sag. This one is like functionally holding the card up vertically. And then over here, they've moved the graphics card to the front of the case, so it's just getting blasted by the air intake from the front. And again, just using a PCI Express riser cable to mount it over there. Here's again a more traditional layout with the tempered glass side panel, and here is a look at the stoned version of the Master Case 600. And that's the one that had the GPU way up high like that. This one they
Gostei
said
muito
is
daquela
set up in more of
caixa.
a silent configuration for people who like stone. Here is a look at that Cooler Master air cooler for RTX 5080 and 5090 graphics cards. They showed you guys this back at CES once again, but just wanted to point out
Este é o
the
cooler
flexibility here with the
para
adjustment down
para
at the bottom. You can
5080
raise or lower the
5090.
shroud itself, and that will allow you to install your own fans, either 15 millimeter, 25 millimeter, or 35 millimeter. So lots of flexibility there depending on how much thickness you can handle in your case. Is the latest entry in the Cooler Master Cube series, which is a uniquely designed case, and they have a pretty unique color finish in this
Estes
one as
cubos
well.
também
This one will be available in a few
são
different
muito
colors,
engraçados.
aiming
Consegues
for
ter
a
um PC com a
59.99
mesma
to
potência de um
69.99
grande e
price
colocar
points,
até, em
and
alguns
expect it to
casos,
launch
uma
in
gráfica
October. Since we
normal.
have these uniform circle-shaped perforations all around the outside, it's providing airflow, but it's also providing mounting points for stuff like a handle. So you can lay this case on its side, or of course you
Yeah,
can rotate it and have it in any orientation that you want. But again, just going along with the Cooler Master theme of being able to customize and stuff, you can 3D print or purchase accessories to allow you to customize the case. We've got some feet down here at the
Vendem
bottom,
peças
even an
da
example of a
Compal. A
little
gente,
tray, or
a maior
maybe a
parte das
holder right
vezes
there
do
to stay
mercado,
printed. Hey, a little caddy for your mouse. That's cool. Cooler
eu
Master
vou
does
dizer
a
o
case mod
teu
World Series.
logo
This is the winner
português,
from last
está,
year that they managed to
dificilmente
bring
vês
over here just to
componentes
have it on
destes.
display at the show. So I thought I'd show you guys really quick. Unique monoblock there for the CPU and GPU. We have a Founders Edition graphics card there at the bottom. This Cooler Master logo is actually part of the cooling loop. If you can't tell, the tubing goes through that. Yes, it has liquid in it. There's a reservoir at the back. Pump is running. And even a small LCD display integrated. This build is made by Tim
Muito
Malmborg.
trabalhinho.
So great job, Tim. This was one of the top builds from the Cooler Master Case Mod World Series. Cooler Master is just showing off some of their cooling components. We already took a look at the
Cá está,
3D
os
heat
coolers
pipes.
de
Did you
torre.
know that Cooler Master actually makes lots of stuff for other companies,
Gosto
like
muito
the
dos
cooling
coolers
solution
de
for
torre.
Asus laptops? Several of those are on display right here. And then I was handed this right here. Look at that. That's a vapor chamber right there. That's like a credit card thin vapor chamber. So you can imagine, especially in solutions within like laptops and stuff like that, how useful having a cooling solution that is that small can be. Some more raw cooling designs over here. Cooler Master also was pioneer for 3D vapor chamber technology, where they can take a vapor chamber of various sizes, add heat pipes to it. The benefit there is that you get not only transfer horizontally within the vapor chamber itself, but of course you get heats transfer upwards through the pipes, which can be transferred to a fin stack. A fin stack, like that one, that's a little bit bigger than typical. Again, just showing you guys that Cooler Master does so much stuff that you might not even be aware of. A major telecom, I'm not going to say which one, they've done installation of cooling for all of their like cell phone towers, 5G towers. I know. Taken probably mind control is really what it's. It's a long-term goal, probably mind control because of the 5G. That's my assumption there. But again, like enterprise custom stuff made for that type of application, fascinating to
Eles
see here.
trabalham com
And again, there's some of those
muito ramo de
details that you
atividades.
don't really realize unless you come and visit the Cooler Master headquarters, and they're like, oh, not just PC parts, by the way. Look at all this other stuff we make. Here's some Cooler Master competitor products that Cooler Master actually provides internals for. Cooler Master makes the X6 pump that goes into the Oris AIO. That X6 pump is also used in MSI all-in-one liquid coolers. Here's their GB9 pump that's used in this Oris 360mm AIO, and a G10 pump, which apparently Cooler Master just wanted to save for themselves. That's a Cooler Master unit. And their G9 pump was used in this Asus ProArt all-in-one liquid cooler. Likewise, over here we have a slightly more custom job. This is an Alienware PC, and you may have a love-hate relationship
Os
with
Alienwares
Alienware,
também
but
não
they've
gosto
been in the
muito
industry for quite
deles.
some time. Hello. They do pre-builts and stuff like that. So Cooler Master made this unit, which includes one of their
Jesus.
pumps as an AIO for Alienware. I'm going to give you guys a quick explanation of what this is right here. It's the Aquagate Max Retro 360. They're basically using, similar to their all-in-one liquid cooler technology, to set up some extreme cooling. Basically, what they have set up right here is a single PC with tubing that is going over to this unit, which is dissipating the heat. Each of these units can dissipate up to 1,200 watts of heat, and yes, you can potentially daisy chain more than one together. These are CDUs, or cooling distribution units. You can take
Quer dizer, vais ligar aquilo tudo em série
back
para
to the system.
refrigerar
So obviously, the
o
single
outro
PC that they have set
PCzinho.
up over there, 1,200 watts of cooling is going to be major overkill, but if you were setting this up in an enterprise environment, you could daisy chain multiples of these together, kind of like you can see in this diagram here. So you could have your desktop, your enterprise server, whatever's going on over
não é
there, and
prático.
then keep it cool with all those Aquagate Max Retro 360 liquid to air mini CDUs. That's quite a mouthful. Wow, okay, Cooler Master had a lot more to show me than I thought. So this video might have gone a little bit long, but it was really cool to see all the stuff they're
Pronto,
doing
já
on
sabem.
the PC gaming side, but also the
Vejam aqui o
enterprise
vídeo do
technology. A lot of
Paulo
that
Hardware,
development
ok?
trickles down to the PC.
Vamos seguir para o próximo. Eu acho que até é ele também, ok? Ele tinha 2 vídeos.
COMPUTEX
Vamos passar
2025.
para a
It's
frente.
actually pronounced Trike, so apologies
Okay.
to Trikes, who is a sponsor for my coverage. And for any of you guys at home who are like, Paul, you're saying it wrong, or who were
O
wondering
gajo vai ficar
how it's
meio
pronounced, now
estrábico.
you know. We're going to start off with the case over here. This is the Flova. It's actually going to have an MSRP of $169.99, so $170, and it's got this nice.
Olha, 160, isto em dólares, 169,99 ou 170. Falta depois aqui a tarifa, não é?
Fabric mesh on the front, as well as down here on the
É
side. It's
cara.
available in both the black that you can see over there, the white that you can
As
see right here,
caixas
and oh
são-
my gosh, this lovely sort of a soft pink color as well. That's pretty unique. Now this front panel is like a mesh fabric. It has a metal frame on the back of it, so this could potentially act as a bit of a dust filter because you can position up to 3 120mm fans at the front there. But look at this thing right over here. This is a cross-flow fan, and the intake is right here. Let me show you the
Não,
fan by
as
itself.
caixas estão
The
muito,
cross-flow fan,
muito
you guys
boas.
might have seen, like,
Esta
you buy a
ventoinha eu
fan
acho
for your house that's
fantástica.
got this vertical tube, and you look at it and you're like, that's not a fan. How can
Isto
that
é
be
uma
a fan?
ventoinha.
But it's got a little spinner unit inside that spins around, and according to Trikes, the single cross-flow fan intake here on the
Isto
side is
é-
the equivalent of having all 3 120mm fans populated for intake at the front.
Fogo.
That's in terms of airflow, or alternatively,
Ou seja,
equivalent to 3 140s, because if you were to remove
Yeah.
that, you could fit larger
Esta
size fans.
ventoinha que
The unit
vocês
seems to have two
viram
different
tem a
aesthetics.
mesma,
This one's
a
sort of
mesma
set up in a bit more of a
eficácia de
gamer
3
kind of
ventoinhas
vibe with, more
120.
intake fans at the
Fantástico.
front with some RGB lighting. We have a really cool
Fantástico.
air cooler here with a massive LCD on the side. We're going to talk more about that in just a second, but if you are going to be installing a lot of high-end hardware in this system, you can populate additional fans. 2 140s or 120s can fit on the side. You can do a 120 or a 140 for exhaust in the back, and then up at the top you can do up to 3 120s, or of course a 360mm radiator for an all-in-one liquid cooler. I thought that inclusion of that cross-flow fan was pretty unique, and I've not personally seen a case that has that style fan before, but apparently that will give you all of your intake from the front along the side here, and that would mean you wouldn't get any dust buildup here on the front. But of course, if you did want that additional airflow, you could add fans there as well. Next up, we have some fans. These are the Rhoda SL ARGB. They have magnetic direct connection because who wants to be wiring
Estas
up
fãs
3
são
individual
porreiras.
fans? No, connect them to each other, and then you've got a single magnetic connector down there at the
Yeah.
bottom that you can pop off or pop back on. That's going to
Pá,
control both the
isto
RGB
agora
lighting and the fan
muito
RPMs.
boas.
Those, of course, can be applied to an all-in-one liquid cooler, such as the Panorama. Right
Outra
here.
moda que
This is
está
a
a
product
correr
that,
agora
if you have
é
seen anything from
Sociais.
Trikes before, is probably the product that you saw. This is definitely the first product from them that I saw, and the standard Panorama AIO with the 6.5-inch AMOLED curved screen is being upgraded with the Rhoda SL ARGB fans. Now the Trikes Panorama is a little bit on the pricier side for an AIO at $369.99, but it does have this very unique AMOLED LED screen, and if you pop that off, it also has some active cooling for the VRMs and the pump block unit itself. And this uses an Asetek Gen 8 all-in-one liquid cooling pump block combo. Now we have the Panorama SE. This one's going to be a little bit less expensive at $279.99. Also, of course, a little bit on the high side when it comes to the AIOs, but
279
AIOs that
euros.
include the LCD
Oh,
screens are pretty
nice.
cool. And if you noticed, I just popped that off. Although this one doesn't include the active cooling, it does allow you to rotate that screen, and then you can remount it. I have a cable that's blocking me because I'm trying to do this with one hand. Here, this one's already set up. So they call this waterfall mode, so you can have some different types of displays, customize, bling out your system if that is what you're into. And if you didn't notice, this is the white version over here. This is available in both black and white. Next up, we have cute characters, anime figures. Why are these here? Because the next product is the Trix stage. And I know most of my viewers are big fans of Hatsune Miku, who is sitting right here on this stage. Now this doesn't come with the all-in-one liquid cooler. The stage gives you two 4-inch LED screens. You can have it mirror what's being displayed on the screen, and there's a mirror on the bottom, so it gives you a stage effect. To display a character, they got a little rock concert set up over here too. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
No,
It's a
I
unique look
believe-
for anyone who's trying to customize their system. This is going to use the same Adela pump from Asetek that the special edition Panorama uses, but they're keeping the price on this one down to a comparatively more reasonable $200. It's going to be available in both black and white, and expected to come out and be available in late summer, possibly Q3. I promise you guys a closer look at this. This is the Turris, which is an air cooler. I like air coolers. With an air cooler, you don't have
Yes,
the
já
potential for failure
já
of the
não
pump or something
desgosto.
like that, which has bit me once or twice in the past.
Acho
That's not to say I don't
aquele
recommend AIOs at all, but I tend to
monitorzinho
lean a little bit
LED
more
ou
towards air
LED,
coolers.
não
Trix, of
queiram,
course, made their debut by
fazem
putting
carecer.
LED screens on all-in-one liquid cool pump blocks. So now they've taken a 5-inch HD screen and they put it on top of a 6-pipe dual tower cooler. It's going to come with 2 fans, actually quite adjustable. Magnetic connections will allow you to remove this screen, and then you can also adjust these fans higher or lower so you can get a bit more clearance for memory.
Mas
And this has a
bem
280
bastante
watt TDP
flexível.
rating. We're expecting this to launch much about the same time frame as the stage over here. So in the next 2-3 months, possibly a little bit longer than that, as they're still developing them. And the MSRP for these,
Este
I'm
ainda
told,
estavam
is $100, $99.99. So I'm curious for you guys in the comments. You
$100.
might have watched my build videos, my recommendation guides for PC building. I
Já
tend
não
to
é
lean towards
nada.
air coolers,
Está
and I tend to
mal.
recommend budget air coolers in the $40-ish range. Do you think the addition of the LED panel on here in the front, as well as the, I'd say the overall look of these are nice, clean, squared off.
Não,
You think that's worth it? $100?
o Ventinha está
I'm curious to know what your feelings are. Let me know in the comment
Está
section.
mais ou
So
menos
AIOs are
decente.
pretty cool, but if you want to go a little bit more in depth and get a little bit more crazy, custom water cooling, which I've dabbled in a little bit before, can be lots of fun if you have some time and some patience and, of course, the money to afford fittings and all the things that go along with that. Strikes had a lot of interest in the curved AMOLED screen on their original AIO, and they were like, hey, why not make a custom water block version of that? So that's what this is right here. As you can see, you got standard G1/4 fittings on the side. Still allows you to maintain that wraparound panorama curved AMOLED screen feel. We actually have a build right here that is featuring it. There's some cool pink accents. I think that looks
Isso vai ser
really nice.
muita.
Now the screen display right there, as
Para
well
o
as lots of other
mercado
stuff like fan speeds and
asiático
whatnot, can be controlled
tem
by
muito
the
interesse.
canal software, which is right over here, just showing a quick demonstration of that. I have never used this software before, so I have no idea what I'm doing, but it looks like you can customize stuff, change fan speeds, and you can see what's connected. What is connected to this right now are new fans. They're called Lucius. They're right here, and as you can see, they come in 3 packs. It's going to be $99.99 for a 3-pack that includes control.
Essa
Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the design
99
here. It's got some hex RGB accents around the outside. And again,
dólares
something
por
I've not
esse
seen before is
pacote
how these are
com
connected together. They have a sidebar that snaps on.
três ventoinhas
See
e
it
o
along the edge of this
controlador.
one, and then
É
that has the
interessante.
standard USB-C connector down at the bottom. Here's a custom build in the Luca case. This is an existing product from Strikes, and this custom build was done by AML Customs, in case you were wondering. I've really been appreciating a lot of these custom PCs on display at COMPUTEX, but they have a new version of the Luca case, which is right over here, called the Luca Air. It still maintains the easy swing-out front door, and you got 2 massive
ventinhas
200mm fans here on the
enormes,
front that have sort of a unique
bits.
protrusion on the outside, so you can verify, yes, I've got 2 big-ass fans right there. As you can see, plenty of room for activities on the inside. Power supply mount is up there at the top, and this does maintain compatibility with back-to-front motherboard connections. Keep an eye out for the Luca Air around Q3, looking at 2-3 months out at least, and it's going to have an MSRP of $269, which includes 200mm fans. Oh, yes, it's
269
also
inclui
available in white,
as
which I
duas
can see a lot better,
ventoinhas.
I feel like. But it also includes that white version of the Trix Turris air cooler that we already showed you guys. Very nice.
É,
Nice looking case.
fica muito,
Next
muito
we have the
engraçado.
Strix Arc Vision, which is a little bit more budget case. It's going to be $119.99 or about $120 without the curved AMOLED screen at the bottom. With the curved
Yeah.
AMOLED screen, you're looking at $239.99, $240. They designed this case to sort of be a feature for their wraparound curved screen all-in-one liquid coolers, with that curve sort of also represented by this glass panel right here, and then of
Isto
course the
vai
potential to
encarecer.
have that AMOLED screen down there at the bottom, or the non-screened version will come with something
Essa
like that
parte aí-
to cover that panel instead, and they're sampling a few
Oh,
different textures
é
for
nisto
that,
que eles
which
apontam.
is pretty cool. Also of note is that this
Estes,
large
estes
tempered glass piece is a
extras
single unit which
encarecem
slides
muito.
forward and then lifts off so you can access the interior. And here's a quick look at the cable management area where you can see, yes, we also have cutouts for reverse connector motherboards, as well as several SSD mounting locations. It's kind of tough to find PCIe 5.0 Razer
Olha, os
cables,
cabos que
so
falamos no
Strix is
outro
also
dia.
developing those. They're calling them string. They have 200mm versions here in black, white, and black. It's been a long day, you guys. And then we got a 300mm version over here as well. So these can be used for
É,
vertical
30,
GPU
atenção,
mounts in a
30
variety of cases,
centímetros,
or
muito
for custom
cuidado.
builds that want to put the GPU in a non-traditional location.
Falámos
Those
disso
work
no
as well.
vídeo.
And with PCI Express Gen 5 support, these will totally work with NVIDIA RTX 40 and 50 series graphics cards, as well as AMD Radeon 9000. Here's an entire build with many of the components that I've shown today, including the stage right there, including the new fans, including the Luca case. And the thing that I'm actually most appreciating right now is that this is a desk setup, which means I could sit down in a chair in front of it. That's really a bonus at this point in the day. I got one last shot of an Arc Vision case in white they have over here, and I wanted you guys to note at the top of that they have a couple more of those wraparound panels. One has a
isto
wood
vai
finish,
ser
one has a marble finish, and Trix is interested in your feedback
uma
on which of those you
tendência.
think looks nicer. So if you guys have any comments
E
for Trix, leave them in the comments
no
section down
mercado
below. They
asiático
will
já
be
não é
reading them. Like
tendência,
a
é
lot of the vendors
mesmo
I talk
uma
to at
coisa que
shows
eles
like this,
gostam muito.
products in development, they really love to get early fan feedback on that,
Mas
so they can
pronto,
direct it towards
acho
something
bem.
that people will enjoy and perhaps buy. It hopefully works out for everyone. But I want to say a huge thank you to Trix for sponsoring my
Ok, já
COMPUTEX
está.
2025 coverage, as well as a big thank
Próximo
you to my
vídeo.
additional sponsors, Gigabyte, G.
Já sabem, Paulo Hardware, não é? Sigam, vejam o vídeo. E agora vamos aqui ao design. Este também faz montagens de PCs particulares, ou seja, por encomendas, normalmente são peças caras e ele customiza, ok? Para quem não o conhece, vamos pôr, não sei se porque é que eu não pus isto em português, ok? Está. E vamos pôr aqui um bocadinho acelerado. Aí
This is
está.
going to be a great booth tour. Let's go check out the XPG booth. This case and that case are the Valor series of cases. There's an M-ATX motherboard supported case, but you can fit a 360mm radiator up the top, a 360mm radiator down the bottom. We have built-in GPU support, and for those longer GPUs, you can actually take these out, put it over here onto the further slot here. It also has support for SFX power supplies and full ATX power supplies. Now, there's two different locations that you can actually put the power supply. So you can actually have a midsection power supply mounting, but that limits the length of your graphics card. Now, if you want a longer graphics card, you can actually move the power supply up a level.
A da XPG, não sabia que a XPG também trabalhava com caixas.
We have a 240mm radiator installed with the power supply
Memórias,
up the
sim.
top. That means that we
E
can actually have a full-size GPU
pontos de alimentação
inside,
também,
whereas
acho
if
que.
it was down there, then we can have the 360mm radiator support, but we have to sacrifice GPU length. Now, the MSRP for this case is $69.99, both for
69,70 euros.
The difference between them is the internals are all the same. It's just the outside mesh panels, and I quite like the design on this mesh panel as opposed to that one. However, I do think there's a little bit more airflow support on the other one over there. Okay, these have to be the craziest design fans I've seen here at COMPUTEX 2025. The Hurricane Mag 120 ARGB PWM fans. Now, on the surface, they look like any regular fan. They daisy chain together by magnetic pull. You can have one cable power 5 fans at a time, and they're actually releasing them as a 4-pack instead of a 3-pack for $109 US. They have the regular RGB, much like most fans. However, the unique feature about these is they actually come with a cable that comes from the controller and attaches to the reset button. Now, what does this do? So if you tap the reset button once, it stops the fans. You tap the reset button again, it actually puts the fans in a reverse mode. So the fans can operate in reverse mode to bring airflow and completely change it throughout the chassis. I think that is pretty unique. I've never seen that on the market before. What do you guys think? Have you seen anything like that on the market? Let us know in the comments. This case is the Invader X. It has a unique design where they've got an angle coming up, a prototype at the moment, but the idea behind this is they want air to come in and be directed straight towards the glass and past the GPU. Some of it will go into the GPU, obviously, but they want more towards the CPU for those using air cooling. Now, they're saying that the ambient temperature within the case during their testing dropped by 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. They're still trying to perfect this angle, and they're looking for user feedback for this case. If you have any feedback for them, let them know down in the comments. There is a white and a black version. The white version has this birch wood design, and the black version will have a darker walnut design. Down the bottom of the case, we can fit a 360mm radiator. Up the top as well, it's actually sandwiched behind the
daquela cor
There's another
ali da
360mm
divisória.
radiator
Não
support,
sei.
and the power supply is actually located in this section right here, up to 220mm in length, and we do have BTF motherboard support as well. And you can see here, they actually have two 120mm fans at the rear here, and because those fans sell in a 4-pack, all you need is 2 4-packs, and you've completely decked out this whole build with fans. This is the Lancer Neon RGB DDR5 UDIMM RAM, so we can go all the way up to 8,000 megatransfers, but of course, when you get to those higher speeds, then you're sacrificing in your CL latencies. Now, we do have max capacities of up to 32 gigabytes, so that is two 16 gigabyte sticks, but the impressive thing about this is the RGB covers 60% of the surface area, and the material is actually fully recycled plastic, but the material is also coated with a heat-dissipating coating that's between IC and the plastic itself, so it actually dissipates the heat a lot more efficiently. They are looking for feedback on these guys. Would you like to see that heat-dissipating coating on all of their other DDR5 products? Let us know down in the comments, and we'll see if they can make that happen. This is their Mars range of NVMe drives. It's the same drive, just different heatsink supply. So we have the fan heatsink right here. We've got a combination of liquid cooling and fan cooling happening in here, and then we just have the standard heatsink on top right here. Now, they are PCIe Gen 5. We have support of up to 14,000 megabytes per second, 3 and 30,000 megabytes per second. Right, and we have capacities up to 4 terabytes. For me personally, I tend to use the built-in motherboard heatsink. I think that is enough. However, the option is there if you guys use a motherboard that doesn't have a built-in heatsink. I'm actually quite curious to see how much more efficient this is over a standard heatsink. So let us know if you guys want to see any testing done in a future video. Tristan and I have been using Thunderbolt 4 for our COMPUTEX coverage here 2025, but ADATA have this Project Titan external SSD Thunderbolt 5. This is 80 gigabits per second.
Thunderbolt
now this is double the 40 gigabits per second that Thunderbolt 4 offers. So if we can get our hands on one of these, it's going to make transfer speeds so much faster as long as we have a Thunderbolt 5 compatible motherboard. Now, for capacity, we could get up to 4 terabytes, so that is going to be absolutely fantastic. We'll put a Gen 5 NVMe inside, fast transfer speeds, That's really going to help with COMPUTEX coverage, but I thought I'd let you guys know because it's something that we can really see some great use out of. This is the Lancer CU-DIM DDR5. CU-DIM has a clock driver which actually stabilizes it and allows us to reach higher frequencies. They are thinking about applying their heat shield technology to these DDR5 RAMs as well, which will help with heat dissipation. Of course, that will put the price up a little bit more, but to be honest,
não vai caber em todas as
money for
bordas.
extra performance and reliability out of the RAM. Overall, it'll make up for it in the longevity. Top speed for this one is 9,733 megatransfers per second. But of course, as you get to those higher speeds, you are sacrificing in latencies, and this would not work at those speeds with AMD. Again, this RAM uses their eco-friendly materials, so it's fully recycled plastic. This is Project Infinity. It's actually a prototype at the moment, but it looks absolutely amazing. Now, they are planning to launch this around Q4 if everything goes to plan. They are thinking that this will reach speeds of 8,000 megatransfers per second, but again, that means higher latencies. They are looking for feedback from the users, so if you guys like the design of this or have any feedback, please let us know down in the comments below. Capacity-wise, you'll be able to get this in two 48GB sticks for a total of 96GB. This is the Lancer DDR5. This is already out on the market. This is what they call their mid-tier range, and they say that this reaches all the way up to 8,000 megatransfers per second in certain regions, because there are regions that like the design of this a lot more, but for the general population, this reaches speeds of 7,000 megatransfers per second, and this is the RAM that is actually perfect to use with AMD CPUs. This kit you can actually purchase in two 64GB sticks. Well, that's a wrap here at the ADATA XPG booth. I have to say, my favorite product today was the Valor Mesh Nano case. I actually like the Valor Air Nano Mesh a lot more than this, but the case itself is very similar. A nice, clean, compact MATX design case. That has to be my pick of the day. Let us know in the comments what your favorite is, and check out this video up here somewhere where we actually check out some more awesome cases.
Este vídeo dele está feito. Sigam o canal dele e vejam o vídeo. É o Designs, ok? Por aqui eu gosto. Seguimos para o próximo, aqui o nosso amigo Gamers Next. Está farto de mostrar os vídeos dele.
Crossflow fans are back. I just had to study them in the middle of the show.
Olha esta aventurinha.
A video about the meshless AIO Mini ITX PC, which was a prototype at the time that used a Crossflow fan, one of these. And it was a very interesting product. Trix is trying to shove it into an ATX case, which I have not seen any examples of.
Fantástico. Gostei muito desta
30
aventurinha.
years is the last one I was able to find online. So as a reminder, the way these work is basically a Crossflow fan is separated by discs. So this one has these discs that cut across. Those create blocks of fan blades. The fan blades run along the whole length of the fan with a very slight angle to them. The point of a crossflow is that air can enter basically tangentially to the axis of the fan, and then it gets spat out towards the camera right now from here. So the air goes in this way and exits effectively perpendicular. There's a little bit of an arc to it, it shallows it out. And the point of doing this is it's a less directed flow. So for an axial fan, the blade slices. An axial fan blade will slice through the air and push it, and there's a bit of a buffeting effect from that. These are able to bypass that effect. The downside is there's less targeted flow. The upside is that it's a more laminar flow, and it's also a sort of a general flow across a larger
confirma,
so those are the
tem a mesma eficiência de 3 ventoinhas de 120.
That's what Trike's trying to put in this
Fantástico.
case. They have a bunch of other stuff too, so they have an air cooler
Isto,
look at,
não
they
sei.
have an updated
Sei
liquid
porque eu não me
cooler. They
acredito.
changed the L70, which bombed in our review previously, so they're trying to improve that and fix it. We'll talk about some of the changes today.
Esta caixa não gostei dos pés dela,
by
sinceramente.
Jensen Huang himself, so I'll be sure not to touch it because I'll instantly lower the value. But we're going to start here. Before that, this video is brought to you by the Antec Flux series of
Passar
cases.
isso para a frente, é publicidade.
This is called the Flova. The Flova is supposed to be somewhere around $140. There's a ginormous footnote there, which that depends on the tariff situation. They're thinking
as tarifas, né?
The crossflow fan, which I'll talk more about and how that works, and a 120mm rear fan, which would go back
Mas
here. So that's
está incluída uma ventoinha traseira e aquela ventoinha. E já aceito.
In the front, it's got a little bit of a fractal vibe to it. This is the front panel of the case. There's definitely, they're going to have to really figure out the porosity on this. This cannot breathe too well right now, so I think that's actually probably the biggest downside at the moment, but this is a prototype, so they have some time to change it. For the rest of the case, though, it's very traditional. So I mean, there's ventilated shroud top. The front can support currently 140s. The crossflow would come out in the current configuration. Side supports fans as typically, top supports fans as typically. So, I mean, it's a case. But the thing I care about is the crossflow setup. So, downsides to this, if we come over to this black version of the case here, you can see that. Let me pull this. Basically, the crossflow fan, the transverse fan, is taking up space in this corner. That reduces the maximum size of the axial fans that go on the front. So they've currently got 120.
Tem que ser preparada para ela.
Saying that they think they could fit 200s. They could definitely fit like a 160 for sure, maybe a 180 in the front, if they don't have the crossflow. So the real question is going to be in A/B controlled testing: is a crossflow plus 120 is better, or would two 200s or two 180s or something, or just three 140s be better? And we would have to test. I don't have the answer to that. The way to think through it, I guess,
Espero que o
would
Gamers
be
Nest
noise
teste isto.
normalizing. I think there's a possibility that with really good design, if they really put effort into the transverse fan, there's a possibility that they're able to improve the cooling performance across the CPU and the GPU. It's really going to depend on how much they tune for acoustics, because these fans, they can be noisy. It depends. So there's basically like a drum rotor on the end of this where that cable's coming out. So it's on the very end. That makes some higher frequency noises in some of our testing. And then otherwise, I mean, it does run at a higher RPM. Currently, it's like 2400 or something like that. But the benefit is air goes in the side, and then you've got air in the front for the axles. You're pulling from two different sources. And this is a little bit closer, especially to the front of the GPU. So it should help with GPU performance. It's just going to depend how they engineer it. And yeah, I think they're saying probably this year for a launch. I think the acoustic testing
Sim, não está pronto,
need
né?
to be spent to try and basically use some kind of like mass damper or some kind of lining to help contain some of the noise. They're not that loud. It's just they are a different type of noise than we're used to. So I'm excited about testing it. I have no idea how it's going to perform thermally versus a like for like with
É, não
140.
gosto
If
daqueles
it's kind of
parafusos
close, like
ali,
it's not a
pá.
big downgrade, then definitely a fan of seeing new things coming to the market and experimenting with stuff and trying to change the case design. Now, unfortunately, it's patent pending for some reason. I'm not really quite sure why that deserves one, but that is the case. That's the Flova. Would love to test it as soon as it's ready and do some A/B, but otherwise we'll move over to some of the other stuff. We'll go to the air coolers. All right, so then finishing out the crossflow, we've got a whole video on that with an educational 3D animation that we did previously. If you want to learn about it, it's definitely worth learning about. Link it below. It's a really fun video. That was from the Meshless AIO. Definitely kick this off. So this is the new air cooler. It's not coming out until probably early next year.
Os
They're
coolers
calling
também
it the
estão
Taurus, which I'm
espetaculares.
told, means hurricane or wind or something like that. And
É
this is
aquele
a
que
6
subiu
by
ao
6,
bocado.
6 heat pipes, 6 millimeters. They're sintered copper powder heat pipes, and the and Trikes is using just soldering. So the fin stack is soldered to the heat pipes. It's not like a new thing, but we're seeing more of it in the higher end heat sinks. So everybody's chasing these like really microscopic differences now to compete with each other, which is a good thing. And so soldering's been the one we're seeing pop up a lot more on these $100-ish down to maybe $50 air coolers. One of the differences that Trikes was talking about is in their manufacturing process for the heat pipes. I guess normally the fin stack has more of a hole cut out around the heat pipe at the corner to give access, and there's a cover plate here, but underneath it's a closed circle that's supposed to give access to the machining to do solder.
Eu não sei se isto não vai aquecer por ter aquela parte de cima.
There's not yet, so they don't have any
Espero que
comparisons for
eles
us for how it's
façam
supposed to actually
testes
help,
quando isto
but
começar a
that's
chegar ao
one of the ways
mercado.
for performance improvement. So we'll just have to look at it when it's done. The fans are PBT, and they are fiberglass reinforced, or glass fiber reinforced. So rather than going LCP, which is way more expensive, they're going with the PBT solution, and that just helps with keeping costs down. The downside is the blade can't be as close to the tip to frame distance, can't be as closed down as you can with LCP, but then the cost is not insane either. This is just the top plate, so you can see it here where this is obviously a screen, and I think they said they're adjusting it to be up to 400 nits, brightness for mass production, and it's a 720p screen, 5 inches, and then basically they're using a pin to pad there, so it's a pogo pin solution to socket on top of the frame. Fan pulls out, as you'd expect, can't do it one-handed, but the fan speeds are a little different. So they've got inner fan at 1850 RPM, outer fan supposed to be about 50 RPM lower. This wasn't given to me as the answer by Trikes, but my understanding of why you would do that would be for beat frequency control, so you can reduce some of that phenomenon that creates the annoying like humming noise that you get. That's typically why it would be done. Other than that, there's an offset mount. It's actually pretty cool. So down in the middle of the fin stack where it mounts to the cold plate or to the IHS, there's an offset for Intel or for AM5. The way they're doing it is it's just like a toggle, so it twists, and then that moves it down by a couple millimeters. I think it was 7 millimeters shifted down, which would put the heat pipes more centrally over the chiplets, where AMD's got it's 2 chiplets on the bottom and then the IO die on the top, basically. So that's why
Eu gostei muito dos coolers.
So in our thermal
Já
testing,
tinha há bocado visto.
coolers, it tends to help.
Só que
We'd have to test
gostava de ver realmente a eficiência.
Got a kind of an updated
Mas aí hoje,
platform
com aquela tendência,
Cooler Master also had a stage
né?
case. That seems to be a theme this year. So stage coolers, $200, 360 millimeter for that one with the ARG
$200,
fans.
tá
And,
bem.
I guess this is for all of the figurine collectors. So I guess you're buying the Yeston video cards, you're buying the Cooler Master stage case, you're buying the Trike stage cooler, and then you're putting all of your waifus in your computer or your husbandus. So let's go over to the case that's been changed. This is the Luca L70. This is the older
eu
one.
não sei, não
That's the
gosto
newer
dessa
one.
caixa de cor
Externally, they
laranja.
look pretty much the same. We're going to cover this in more detail, like I said, in the studio. The quick version is the case, when we tested it, it had a number of issues where some of them
E aquela
were
parte de baixo,
related to strength and
teste.
structure that could be from shipping, and a lot of them were from build quality, and some of them were from usability. So there's been a few changes for all of those things. On the usability side, basically, so on the back of the case, the usability change is to where the SSD mounts. They've added an extra hole that's supposed to help with the 3.5-inch drive support. So there's an issue with that previously. They've
Não
moved the
sei
2.5-inch
como
holes
é que
up,
eles
and that's supposed to
sacaram
make it so that you can
essa
actually access the SATA connector.
mistura de cores,
Previously, one of our complaints was you
sinceramente.
can't really get into the SATA connector once the drive's installed. And so that's, I haven't tested it yet. I don't have a 2.5-inch drive
Preta,
with me.
tudo
That's supposed to
bem.
fix that issue. The button they've revamped.
E
So we had complaints
branca.
about the button being difficult and kind of mushy or gross to push previously. It does feel better. I mean, they've improved that part. This was not final yet at the time, so the 200s for the mesh version of the case hasn't shipped yet. But the change they've made from when we saw it at COMPUTEX last year is going for pogo pins to get the cable off of the front panel. So that is good. I mean, that's what I want to see for that one.
É.
Chuck says they've stiffened up the support on this
Tinha
corner
que
where when
ver
the glass is out and the front
como é que
panel's out.
ficou
They say they've strengthened
no
that. We
laboratório
kinda
dele.
wanna
Ele
test
tem um
that. And then on
laboratório
the
bom
inside
que
of the panel,
faz
so we'll go to footage for this,
testes
but
de
it's basically these
eficiência
guide pins on the inside of the
das
glass, kind
fontes,
of like a
e
pilot
tanto sonora
shaft or something.
como
That's supposed to help
temperaturas.
secure it,
Isso é
mount
que era
the frame.
interessante
We've added
ver.
a screw to the glass panel to secure it better, which is also
Que há
good,
muitas
something we want to
caixas
see.
que esteticamente são
And then
bonitas,
there's a
mas
number of other
depois
small
têm
changes,
deficiências
but I think that's
brutais.
most fun. Then we'll cover all the really minute detail stuff once we're back in the studio and I have some time to really look at it. I do have one of the new ones at home with the glass front, I think. So we'll be looking at that. The water block is also new. So this doesn't normally come with Jensen Huan's signature, but they got one. I shouldn't have touched it. I've just damaged the value. I am so sorry. So the block here is the same block, just powered on. So it's the panorama screen from the liquid cooler, the closed loop liquid cooler, the AIO.
É,
They've applied it
outra
to a water block.
tendência.
And then there's a VRM fan inside. It's got some access to air. I just ruined it again. Got access to air here, spits the air out to the VRM, and functions, as you would expect a VRM fan to do in a pump block. And then it's open loop. So this is not an AIO solution. You'd hook it up to a loop as typically. There's software as well. So they've got presets in here for different colors and things. We have some footage of it, but you can also fine tune the per LED control.
Isto para jogar eu não recomendo, porque é mais um software que vai estar a correr, percebem?
is $240.
Muita atenção a esses pequenos detalhes.
The last thing we look at, this is the Arc Vision. So this is a new case from them. Basically, screen in the corner, same style. So they go in panorama for everything.
Que
style
vimos há
cooler.
bocado.
And I was told that the reason they sunk it in like this is basically to protect it from unintentional scratches from users and in shipping. But they've sunken the screen in. They are planning to use this tooling for other cases in the future as well. There's going to be options where it can either be the screen for the more expensive model. I think they're targeting $240 for that, or the non-LED model, which would be something like this, or something like this for $120 for that pricing. And they're supposed to have 4 120 fans included. So my understanding is going to be 3 side, 1 rear. Also, interestingly, they've scooped the shroud. So the power supply shroud basically sweeps up and in. I asked if they've done A/B testing. They haven't done it yet. We don't have any numbers to share. But the reason this is like somewhat important is because also there's a hole in the tooling behind here. It's kind of difficult to see, but basically behind this mesh panel there is a hole in the case. And so if they had left it open, where the fan could blow into the power supply shroud, it would basically just exit like immediately. So the scoop has other purposes as well.
Tem que se ver estas caixas em laboratório funcionar. Quer dizer realmente a eficiência que tem.
But it's that kind of a weird angle coming in from the side. So we'll see that in testing.
Mais software, core.
3 of the fans are reverse blade. It's got 4mm thick glass. And then there was one other interesting thing, which I don't have this example to show, but they were talking about how the plan is to make the screens interact with each other. So the example that was given was this screen can talk to that screen sort of through software. And the example was like if Mario jumps down the pipe on that screen, you have him pop up here or pop out the bottom there or something like that. And it'd be kind of neat. I'm guessing that for legal reasons, that is not being shown. Although that didn't stop thermal take.
Aí está, mais um vídeo do Gamers Next. Vejam o canal dele, Gamers Next. Ok? E sigam.
Budget cases that sting in terms
É o
of
Texas
value.
City,
This one
sabem?
is going so hard that we're going to talk about it at the first part of this Montech video here at COMPUTEX 2025, where they're releasing the X5M, which is micro ATX, coming out in late June, the 30th of June.
Da Montech, Montech está com uma pujança muito grande. Preços bons.
And that includes the
$59.
ARGB fans, the side glass panel, and just a really clean aesthetic overall. Now, you can mount, in this case, 360mm rad at the top or the bottom, so either or. You got to choose. But honestly, I asked them about the tariffs in the US. I said, is this going to come out in the US for $59? And they said that's what the plan is. So I've been hearing a lot of talk about these tariffs lately and who's it affecting and how's it affecting people.
$59 a contar com as tarifas.
With this case, for
Fantástico.
$59 in the US. So if you're looking for a good value case, then stay tuned for the X5M, which is coming in the black and also the white. Now, also, if you want to step it up, to the bigger format, you've got an ATX size motherboard, but you still want to keep things on a budget, then here's where, in my opinion, it actually gets even better. Because you've got here the X5 in the white or the black. Same kind of deal, 360mm rad at the side or the top. Then you've got 4 140mm fans pre-installed at the front versus the 120s at the front on the X5M. You do have the 120 in the back too. Now this is ARGB. All these models here on the X5M and the X5, ARGB support, but also they include the controller as well. So if you've got an older motherboard or your motherboard's an A620 on a budget without the ARGB controller on, or the port on the 5V,
Montec está preço imbatível.
But what else has Montec got on display at COMPUTEX 2025? Let's check it out.
COMPUTEX 2025 was brought to you by
Vamos passar à frente.
And the temperatures were horrendous. We're talking like 10 degrees plus on your GPU on like a 3080 Ti. And that was due to the fact that the fans come in the side and they just hit the glass and the airflow is just terrible. But this is all getting solved with an affordable price tag, by the way, with the HS023D. Now this is coming out in Q4. They don't have an exact date yet, but it's coming around 160 USD, and it's going to have 3 fans down the bottom that then push air in a vertical format. So instead of having those temperature problems on your regular fish tanks,
na minha caixa tenho
solve that with much
ventinho
Now,
assim.
on the top here is also another unique feature where you've got a 360mm rad at the top of the case, but it's also got extra room there because some of the AIOs, when you install them in so-called 360mm support cases, the actual end of the radiator hits the case and it's very annoying to install. So Montec are aware of that. They've included a bit of extra room up the top there to mount a big 360mm rad. Anyhow, right beside that, we've got here the Air 2000. Now, this is coming out in 2026 Q2, and I'm told it's going to be around 110 USD. Now, this is coming in the black and the white, but here's you've got the digital display down on the side here. So the digital display is going to read your CPU and GPU temperatures. Now, all you need for this, I'm told, is a driver. That's it. You don't need an app. So no fancy app running in the background causing stuttering. Just a driver. It's going to measure your temperatures, but also, if we come back in and take a look at this display right here, what we can see is there's a button here too. So you've got manual fan speed control there, but also this button, the square button, it then syncs up to the motherboard's fan speeds. So you've got control there if you want higher fan speeds.
Então, tudo bem,
from the actual
Daniel?
case fans themselves, which are all 140mm, by the way. Or if you're like, okay, I want my motherboard, say my CPU, the fans are ramping up, you can then change all the fans.
As ventinhas incluídas, tarifa.
So really cool design there, especially at that price point of $110.
Fantástico.
Now, what we're looking at beside that is a concept. This is a quick one. They haven't even got a name for it. They don't have any release dates.
Esta não gostei, da frente, da caixa não gostei.
And here it is with 8 hard disk drive support for 3.5 inches. So if you guys need a lot of storage without such a massive format, then Montec are sort of putting fillers out with this concept case right here.
Faz bem, Daniel. Há que passear.
For you or not. Do you have a lot of hard drives? Me personally, nowadays, I'm just like a 1 M.2 in the main system.
Foi férias? Ou foste fazer
terabytes, but
praia?
let us know. If you guys like the fish tank design, but on a pretty strict budget, then these are going to be the updated King versions from the previous generation.
Estas Montec também são
And then they've
baratas.
also got the King 45. Now, the difference here is just micro ATX versus ATX support. So the ATX version, the King 45, having a taller support there for that motherboard, but also you can get this in the non-Pro and the Pro versions. Now, the Pro version is just simply the 3 120mm fans.
Estas são da Montec. Montec tens na Global Data, na PCD que eu não sei, mas na Global Data tens. Os preços deles estão muito bons.
Both the ATX King 45 model and the micro ATX, the King 15 model. So you're looking at 90 and 110. So
Estas caixas já estão em linha de produção. Há muitas das caixas que estão nestes vídeos, quando eles fizeram a exibição, era para ainda em fase de testes.
Which is really good to hear because some companies want to charge you more for that white aesthetic. Now, the unique feature about this case, if we come in a little bit closer here, we can see that there is an invert on those bottom fans. So it does have the vertical support there if you want to mount the 360mm radiator up the top with the extra room, or if you just want to mount 3 120s up the top.
As ventinhas em baixo,
You
não
notice
tem
down
a
the bottom,
minha.
there's a slight incline there on the right-hand side of the case. Now, this is because it's a flat design. There's no feet on this case. And you need to get airflow into those fans. So that's the reason for the incline. However, there's also a unique feature up the top of the case here. If we pull this detachable panel off, we can see here if you are annoyed with trying to get your CPU cables in, this makes it so that the incline also helps and extends up to the top here to allow you to easily route your CPU cables to the motherboard. So they're really bringing a unique design to the fish tanks and just improving things for the end user, but also giving things really good value. So we've done with the confirmed cases that are coming out. We're moving into the realm of still a little bit in development and concept. And here is the Sky 3 glass, which Montech are aiming to get out in Q1 next year in 2026, probably more towards the end of that Q1. But this is going to aim
Também é Montech a
around
tua.
$100. This is a Sky 3 glass in the black or the white aesthetic, but there's something really unique
Esta
going on
caixa é
here.
enorme.
They've got the ability to modularly switch out the power supply bracket, and if you want that on the left and you want more of the aesthetic on the right with the fans, matching the incline there with the RGB outside, you can do it that orientation, or you can do the more cooling on the GPU
Caixote do
directly
caralho.
with this traditional outlay here. Now, what we're looking at this white unit here is what you're going to traditionally get with the $100 price tag, and then you can add in 2 extra fans, but also they're still thinking about whether they want to put in 140 mil fans or 120s. I personally want to see 140 mil fans in this. I think it does have the support there, does have the room for it, but do let us know in the comments
Tradução
below what you guys think of the Sky 3 glass,
erros do
because besides that,
caraças.
they've got a mini ITX concept coming
Estas
out
mini
as well,
ITX
but this
também
one's
gosto
slated for
muito.
Q2 release, and you've got the ability to change the orientation in 3 different modes. So they've got an M1 mode, an M2 mode, which will have the graphics card situated in the same area as the CPU cooling. But then we've got the i3 mode here, which is going to have the GPU chamber completely separated to the back of the build here. And what that means is you can just mount the largest monstrosity of a GPU that you can. And it's funny and fitting that they've got the Zotac model mounted in this case, because that, for me personally, is the biggest GPU I have come into thus far. And also, you'll notice there's a 360mm radiator on the top, and so you can configure the whole build any way you like. But do keep in mind, in total size, 17 liters internally, but I'm told it's about 26 liters with the whole case in its size. So it is a little bit big for an ITX case, but sticking to that value metric here, $80 USD, that's what they're aiming to get this thing out for, which for a mini
Mais
ITX case
tarifas.
of this quality and this design, I'm
Impecável.
really looking forward to it. So the cases, they were looking really good in terms of just hitting
Os
on
IOs.
what's upcoming with the value, but behind me is also the water and air coolers that are coming with the hard-hitting value. And for starters is the Hyperflow Digital 360 and 240. Now, the 240 version is going to come in with a $100 USD price tag, and then the 360 is going to come in with a $120 price tag. Now,
Esses
they've
não estão
also got
baratos.
an in-house vendor for the pumps. I'm told they actually make these pumps for other brands like Fantex and things like that, but they're a pretty good design, and they're going to push some water pretty hard.
Mas
with
nunca
the E28
nunca
fans
peguei no
that come
Montech.
with these
IO.
coolers. Now, beside that is the Cyberflow 360, and you may be wondering, what's the difference here? Well, we've basically got a VRM fan that is detachable on the actual
É moda
pump itself.
agora.
And also, they're using an upgraded version for the pump that apparently has better flow and a slightly better cooling plate than that of the Hyperflow Digital. And so this one is going to come in at 130 for the 360 and
130.
110 for the 240.
110
This is coming in
ou
later this year in
240
Q4
num conselho.
2025, but this one's meant to come in around 3 months earlier.
Sei que
in
se a caixa não
Q3.
der.
Now, also,
Ele não
moving
é, pode-se
over
pôr
here to the air coolers, these are coming out, I'm
cooler
told,
maior.
later
Cooler
next
store.
month. I
Cuidado,
almost
não
dropped that
estragues
off the
isso.
display there. But this is the NX400, and you can look at the price tag, $26.
26
And that's
dólares.
coming with the new E28 fan as well.
Barato.
And then above that is $30 if you want the ARGB.
É,
Now,
mas o
beside that
mercado
is a
asiático quer
cooler
isso.
that is
Pá.
going to be released a little
E
bit
isso e
later, so we
muito
don't know the
mais.
exact specifics on this one just yet.
O
But this is the
asiático é
NX600 coming out in Q4
muito à frente nos
2025.
neons.
We're looking at a price tag here of about $50 for the ARGB
Muito
version
à frente
and
nos
$40 for
neons.
the
Pá.
non-RGB version. Me personally, I'm really digging that non-ARGB version there. Just the simple, clean look, as also carrying that performance for that $40 price tag. I think this could really come in as sort of a higher-end air cooler, but keeping the budget price tag still attached. And with all that aside, guys, that wraps up the Montech booth here for COMPUTEX
Pronto, já está aqui
2025.
o da
If you guys
Montech.
enjoyed this one,
É o Tech S City, já sabem. Portanto, vejam o vídeo. E vamos deixar ficar por aqui. Temos mais 3 vídeos depois para ver. Fica para, em princípio, amanhã. Para não nos alongarmos muito. Ok? A Montex está muito boa, Carlos. Está muito boa. E preço, especialmente o preço, a qualidade deles está muito bom. Não é dos melhores produtos que está no mercado, mas o preço é que pá, é imbatível. Então nas caixas está muito, muito, muito bom. Eu depois, então, amanhã faço a continuação dos outros 3 vídeos, porque já estamos com acima de 1 hora e eu não queria cansar muita gente, tá bom? Mas já está um bocado tarde. Muito obrigado, maltinha, e até uma próxima. Daniel, bem-vindo outra vez aqui. Acabou as férias, não é? Um abraço, tudo bom, fiquem bem.